welcome back. Hello, my name is Douglas Grummins, and this is part 2 of Beyond Death. And today we're going to go deeper into the question, is there life beyond death? Do we exist after we die? The atheist believes that you do not, and the theist believes that you do. And I say with 100% certainty that you do survive death. But does that mean that there's a God? And when I say God, is there a God that is all-watching, omnipresent, always there like Big Brother watching over us? Or is there another definition of God, a newer definition? But at that point, the atheist says, hey, wait, you can't throw a curveball like that and say there's a definition of God. You can't just remake what God is. And I say, yes, you can. Because the biblical version of God is nothing like what I have perceived and what I have experienced. What I have experienced is a God that dove into his creation when he made it. He became us. We are all a little speck of God, just a tiny piece, a part of the whole. And the atheists, have the argument that they cannot come to know God because you can't come to know the whole. I mean, after all, how does the part become to know the whole? It's impossible. Mathematically, it's impossible that one iota of existence, one tiny speck, like one grain of sand, how can that grain of sand come to know all of existence? And that includes this universe and any other universe beyond this universe, all of existence. That means existence and non-existence, because God is both existence and non-existence. I know that's irrational, but this is the truth. And at this point, this is where we insert meditation, because meditation provides a way for the part to become the whole. I know it's illogical. I know it's incomprehensible, but it can happen. And that's why it's such a mystical thing that the part can come to know the whole, and the whole comes to know the part. So it's a combined essence of everything combined. And this is the very essence of what they call Taoism. Taoism says life and death are each a part of one cycle, or many cycles. We don't know. And the amount of cycles depends on when you become enlightened or not. You are, in a sense, predestined to repeat the same mistakes you've made in the past until you learn from them. And my feeling and understanding is that you carry this into the afterlife. After you pass on from this body and you die, in the next life, you stay at the same level. As I've said in the previous video, that the physical chakra, the lowest chakra, I'd say like 70% of the human population stays at the base bottom chakra because they never worked to raise anything into the higher levels. Now the other 30% is divided up between the next chakras up, like the sex chakra and the abdomen chakra, and then the fourth, the heart chakra, and depending on how much energy you raised in this life is how much you take into the afterlife. And what you take into the afterlife then comes into life once again. And you start over until you learn the lesson and open the door to the next chakra up and raise the energy up. So in a sense, you're predestined. Everyone is predestined to life. Listen to what Osho has to say in his book, The Psychology of the Esoteric. Osho says our lives are both predestined and they are not, both yes and no, and both answers are true for all questions about life. In a way, everything is predetermined. Whatever is physical in you, material, whatever is mental, is predetermined. But something in you constantly remains undetermined, unpredictable. That something is your consciousness. If you are identified with your body and your material existence in the same proportion, you are determined by cause and effect. Then you are a machine. But if you are not identified with your material existence, with either the body or the mind, if you can feel yourself as something separate, different, above, and transcendent to the body-mind, then that transcending consciousness is not predetermined. It is spontaneous, free. Consciousness means freedom. Matter means slavery. So it depends on how you define yourself. If you say, I am only the body, then everything about you is completely determined. A person who says that man is only the body cannot say that man is predetermined ordinarily. Persons who do not believe in such a thing as consciousness also do not believe in predetermination. Persons who are religious and believe in consciousness ordinarily believe in predetermination. So what I am saying may look very contradictory, but still it is the case. A person who has known consciousness has known freedom. So only a spiritual person can say there is no determination at all. That realization comes only when you are completely unidentified with the body. If you feel that you are just a material essence, then no freedom is possible with matter. No freedom is possible. Matter means that which cannot be free. It must flow in the chain of cause and effect. Once someone has achieved consciousness, enlightenment, he is completely out of the realm of cause and effect. He becomes absolutely unpredictable. You cannot say anything about him. He begins to live each moment. His existence becomes atomic. Your existence is a river-like chain in which every step is determined by the past. Your future is not really future. It is just a byproduct of the past. It is only the past determining, shaping, formulating, and conducting your future. This is why your future is predictable. This predictability stays with you life after life, death after death, until you can break the chains that have bound you to this circle of life and death and repeated. And they say enlightenment breaks you free from it. But I think personally that, like Osho says, enlightenment gives you the freedom. Now you're free to do or be whatever you want. Maybe you have the freedom to come back into another life. I mean, there has been no evidence of any enlightened person ever returning. It hasn't happened. Or if it has happened, nobody shared it. Maybe an enlightened person has come back, but he kept his mouth shut and, didn't let the world know who he was or what he was, just kept quiet and lived a normal life. Maybe a butcher down the street or a guy that mows your yard. Who knows who could be enlightened? And only an enlightened person can face death with such courage. The same way an enlightened person faces meditation every time he meditates, he can face death with the same courage. And death, when approached as not the enemy, but as a welcome guest to continue the cycle or complete the cycle that you're in right now, is not approached with fear. In some of my deepest meditations that I've gone into, I go into what they call samadhi, which is the deepest states, which take you into the 9th, 10th, and 11th dimensions of our existence. I've actually stopped breathing, and I've heard of yogis that this happens to. When you're meditating, you go so deep that the body becomes so still that not even breath is there anymore. You stop breathing for a little while. I've heard some yogis could do it for long periods of time, and they appear as they're dead, but really that's a deep state of meditation that you can go into and then come out of. I don't know if I've heard it or read it somewhere, maybe in one of the Osho books or one of the Tibetan Book of the Dead books. But I've heard it said that you only have the 7 chakras in you while you're alive. When you pass on, all the energy that was split before comes together, and you're just white, pure white energy. It's possible through technology, maybe at one point, that will be able to photograph what happens to the human souls they leave the body. I think in Russia they did some experiments with Kirlian photography and capturing pictures of people's auras, while they're alive and then while they were passing too. I don't remember the outcome of that experiment, but I have heard about people trying to accomplish it. But what I'm talking about is actually photographic evidence of the soul leaving the body. The biggest problem with that part about the soul leaving the body and getting photographic evidence of it is a lot of people don't even believe the soul exists. So step number one is to get people to understand, what the soul is, and this can be experienced when you're in meditation, when you go beyond the mind and your consciousness exists while the mind is still, and you can exist in a state of no thought. You come to know what the soul is. That this consciousness that you're feeling is the consciousness of all existence. It's like having one big ocean. The ocean is one, even though the lakes and rivers are many. The ocean is one. And this is why so many mystics have said down the ages that you're one with existence, and then you're a drop of existence, and then you're reunited with the cosmic ocean of existence. So if we possibly look at it with a grandiesque overview, maybe things started with the Big Bang, or this universe started with the Big Bang, and life, God has given you space, matter, materialistic needs in order for your spirit to grow. And then eventually one day, through millions of lives and as much space as you could possibly need is given to you, you'll return. And that return, could be the end of this universe. I mean, who knows? That's really, the next stage of thinking. That's where everyone's leading into coming to understand. So here are these final words of mine that I want to share of Osho again. Osho was talking about, in Indian philosophy, truth has been described as, or God has been described as truth, Satyam, beauty, Sundram, and goodness, Shivyam. And someone asks, are these the characteristics of God? And Osho responds, these are not the qualities of God, rather they are our experiences of God. They do not belong to the divine as such. They are our perceptions. The divine by itself is unknowable. Either it is every quality or no quality at all. But as the human mind is constituted, it can experience the divine through three windows. You can have the glimpse of either beauty, or through truth, or through goodness. These are the three dimensions belonging to the human mind. They are our limitations. The frame is given by us. The divine itself is frameless. It is like this. We can see the sky through the window. The window looks like a frame around the sky, but the sky itself has no frame around it. It is infinite. Only the window gives it a frame. In the same way, beauty, truth, and goodness are the windows through which we can glimpse or have a glance into the divine. Human personality is divided into three layers. If intellect is predominant, then the divine takes the shape of truth. Break away from the text a little bit, and that's what I feel like the atheist view is. And then back to the text. The intellectual approach creates a window of truth, the frame of truth. If the mind is emotional, if one comes to reality not through the head but through the heart, then the divine becomes beauty. The poetic quality is given by you. It is only the frame. Intellect gives it the frame of truth. Emotion gives it the frame of beauty. And if the personality is neither emotional nor intellectual, if action is predominant, then the frame becomes goodness. Osho continues on by saying, the very word God comes from the word good. This word has the greatest influence because most of humanity is predominantly active, not intellectual or emotional. This does not mean that there is no intellect or emotion, but they are not predominant factors. Very few are intellectual and very few are emotional. The majority of humanity is predominantly active. Through action, God becomes the good. And goodness, beauty, and truth are just windows from which God can be perceived. It's like, each one of these windows open up to the vast open sky of existence. And, perceiving, God through one of these windows is a very limited view of what God is. What needs to happen is that you need to step outside of the window, go outside of the door, and perceive the whole open sky, and don't view it through a window. So each of these windows has a purpose, and they serve their purpose by allowing you a glimpse of the divine, a glimpse of the open sky, in other words. In reality, there are two open skies. There's the outward material open sky, the universe that we know. And then there's the inner world, the inner sky. And the inner sky is actually more vast than the whole universe combined. What you perceive with the universe of matter is really only the first 4 dimensions. The other 7 dimensions are all inward. So if we think about it as the 7 inner dimensions, the first dimension, the lowest, is the physical body. And those that have not matured enough emotionally, so the energy can raise out of the physical body into the emotional body, stay in the physical body. And that's the point I'm trying to get across, that applies with the emotional body and into the mental body. And the same goes with the spiritual body. I mean, you have to raise energy up through all the lower chakras up to the heart chakra. But each person that is existing in whatever level of body or dimension that you're on, you're coexisting with all the others that are on the same levels. Like an enlightened person, he exists in a different dimension than anyone who's not enlightened. I mean, even if your energy is, if you're a spiritual person, then you suspect that there's something more about the enlightened person. I mean, you can actually sense that there's something different about them. But and I think the same applies. Like if you're a spiritual person, you can sense things about the levels that you've already passed through. So you're open to all of them. So what I'm getting at is that the old saying, "It takes one to know one," applies in the spiritual world as well. If you think about it, a child of 7 years or younger, he has no knowledge of the emotional body. Those things come into life a little bit later than 7 years old. But as you develop from 7 to 14 years old, you grow through the emotional body, and you learn, how to react to people and understand people through your emotions. And then you get a little older in life, and then from 14 up to 20 into your 20s and up, you learn how to control the mental body and understand and relate. And each one of these bodies is also, in a sense, a dimension, because, like I said, a 7-year-old cannot comprehend astrophysics or something. I mean, those things come later on in life. But in a natural flow, if a person is healthy, and and if a person starts meditating at a young age, it can not only just expedite, but help you to be a more healthy, vibrant human being, and going up through the chakras will be a lot easier, and you won't be so attached to the physical body and the lure of the things of the physical body or the emotional body, because when enlightenment happens, it is a complete let go of all the lower forms and saying, I'm ready to accept, the next level, or the next levels, to say. In ancient Eastern history, they used to think that there were only 5 chakras, inner chakras. and there was nothing known about the sixth and seventh chakras, but the five were also in conjunction with the five dimensions, lower dimensions of existence. They say that Jesus, when he became enlightened, was raised into the fifth chakra, the throat chakra, the first level of samadhi, but that's where he stays. It wasn't until Buddha came along, and Buddha went deeper than no other person had ever gone before. He went so deep that he discovered that there were actually 2 more layers to samadhi, thus making the 7 energy centers within our bodies. So with the 3 dimensions that we perceive in our material world, and then time being the 4th dimension, no time being the 5th dimension, and then the each one of our bodies, our physical body, our emotional body, our mental body, and our spiritual body, each being a different dimension, and then the 3 layers of samadhi gives us 11 dimensions, which coincides with what string theory says, is that there are 11 dimensions to existence. They used to think that there were only 10 dimensions to string theory, but I think what happened was the realization of only 10 made the universe collapse, or the whole project collapse at some point. But when the number was raised to 11, then everything fell in order with the laws of existence. The whole reason I'm sharing all of this with you is to help take you to the next level, or to give you the courage and the understanding so that you can approach it and enter meditation and not be afraid, and be open to the new dimensions that are awaiting you. Most of you listening to this recording are probably between the ages of 14 to 45, 50 years old. And that's the window. And you have to always remember that each stage of your life has a short window, that's like a 7-year window before you move into the next. And if everything goes according to plan, and you're a healthy person and you meditate, then by the time you're 21 to 29 years old, you'll experience the open sky without any window. And that open sky is what a lot of people call God. And once you experience the open sky, this God or godliness, I like the word godliness much better, then you no longer fear death. You lose a desire for anything more than what you have. Because you're in 100% state of bliss, living outside the realm of time. Remember, time is the fifth. No time is the 5th dimension. And time exists around you. It's all around you. And you can see like seconds moving on a clock, so it's there. But when you exist in the dimension of no time, then you're not touched by time. You're now living in eternity. And it's a complete different dimension than the dimension of time. Time only exists in the mind, really, too, because in order for time to exist, you need future, which doesn't exist in reality, and past, which is already gone, so it doesn't exist. So really the only thing that does exist is the present moment. I know we've heard that one before, but I just had to throw that in there and share that with you as well. So the whole meaning of me giving these videos and giving you these videos and sharing these words with you is to get you to go to the next level, to give you the courage you might need to take that next step. And remember, you take one step in God's direction, and God will take 1,000 steps to you. So with that thought, I say take care, my friends. Find time to meditate. Bring meditation into everything you do in life, and that'll help as well. Be meditative and make it a 24-hour experience. And that's what Zen is. Zen says that, meditation is not a 30-minute exercise. It's something you do. It's something you are. It's something you become. And once the becoming experiences the open sky without any windows, then you are born again, or born twice, as the Indians say, and Buddha just calls it enlightenment. I like to call it coming home, but it's more to be described as like a plant that breaks through the soil and sees the sun for the first time and opens his leaves and to all the glory of existence. That's even a closer revelation of what existence is like when you're enlightened. Anyway, you guys take care. I would also like to add that I've made several other videos, and one of the ones I made recently was called My Stick Al, like mystical, but spelled out my MYSTICKAL. I was kind of just being in a humorous mood at the time, but the video is meant for you to meditate to and help you to move into meditation easier and guide you as much as I can to the last point where I can't guide you anymore, and then you have to take off and launch on your own. Anyway, look out for my videos. You can also check out my books. I've written 2 books, 10,000 Waves and Songs of the Buddhas. Once again, thank you for joining me, and we'll see you again sometime soon. Bye-bye.